Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to have a talk about all the Black Library reveals from the other day. Some information which really stood out, some of the new model releases when it comes to Euro Ventress and all that. But I actually want to start with probably the biggest thing for me that happened at the event was the now retconning of the Dark Imperium and the Plague Wars book, where it's no longer at the end of the Indominus Crusade now. It's actually set 12 years in to the Indominus Crusade. So let's jump in, let's talk about that and what that actually means now for the future of the narrative and probably for the future of model releases, because I personally think now, with them going back in time and putting it where it is, it opens the doors for a lot of potential big characters coming back into the lore. So let's do it. Let's jump in. Let me start by saying that I indeed welcome this change, but there is a negative that goes with this, in my opinion, and that negative is the amount of money that people have already spent on Dark Imperium and the Plague Wars book, the audio books, the special editions. I have seen people saying, well, what does that mean for my book now? You know, it more or less means it's kind of an out-of-date product because it's got to get retcons in it. My story no longer makes sense. And there's a lot of people out there that actually spent a lot of money to get these special editions. I myself, I bought the audiobooks. I spent, I think it was £30 at the time on per audiobook. So, that's £60 worth now. It more or less kind of means nothing. It all depends really on how much the story has changed, and I think it would change quite some bit because how it talked about the end of the Indominus Crusade. There's bigger questions added to this now. It's like, do chapters now are formed during the era Indominus? Because at the end of it, Gilman was breaking everything up, and Felix was going to a certain bit, and other people were going to a certain bit. That Space Wolf chapter was formed during the end of the Indominus Crusade. So yes, I understand that there is a lot of questions. Guy Haley himself actually said over on Twitter that he's probably going to do a bit more explanation on this subject, which hopefully will clear a lot of things up, a lot of questions up, because at the moment there is more questions than there is answers. Now, one of the main reasons why I welcome this is that I personally thought that the Indominus Crusade felt like it was being brushed under the rug. With 8th edition, with the narrative being pushed forward, we had the Great Rift happen, we had the Imperium being split in half, chapters lost, everything that happened. We had this Indominus Crusade, and we came in it at the end of the Indominus Crusade. And the Indominus Crusade was, 116 years? To be put into perspective, I think the Horus Heresy was 9 years. Yes, you can argue that maybe, it was bigger than the Horus Heresy, maybe not. Of course, the galaxy is split into the two different things. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. But when it comes to it, I was like, okay, we've had this massive crusade, but there's really no stories on it. And then we had the Dark Imperium at the end, which were great books, by the way. The Dark Imperium and Plague Wars are absolutely fantastic books, and I am really looking forward to the next one, Godblight. Again, we'll get into that one in some part of the video. But it just felt like, we've missed all this character building, that they could, put new things in, people returning, certain, big characters from other races. It's not all about the Imperium. What about the Necrons? What about the Eldar, the Dark Eldar, the Orcs and stuff? And now, what we've been seeing through the back end of 8th edition, I think they realised that mistake. That's why, we started to have the Psychic Awakening books that were set during the era Indominus. And this is why now in 9th edition, we've gone back in time, because someone's realised that we can actually tell a massive story. They can actually push the narrative now, bit by bit, through this era Indominus and start introducing storylines that will actually affect the 40k story without taking it to its final conclusion. Because when we've been having stories like, the whole Pariah Nexus, the Silent King being more involved now. I know the Silent King's been back for a bit. I've been speaking to some Necron players. He's always been there in the background, even though, apparently he's just returned. I don't know. I'm confused with the Necron stuff. But apparently the Silent King has always been there. He's just more interested in the main story plot now and what the hell's going on. But when you have stuff like this Pariah Nexus that's been happening, and then you had the Dark Imperium books, you had the Plague War books, and there was no mention of that at all. And we've been told, like, the Necrons coming back as such, a big threat, and what they're doing, could potentially, do this to the Imperium, and that's not even mentioned at all. And you think to yourself, is it that really important then if it's not even been mentioned? So, this is one of the reasons why they're going back now, so they can start adding this type of stuff to the storyline, which, again, it makes complete sense. I understand why they're doing it. Now, going forward is the interesting bit for me, because now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, this is no longer set at the end of the Indominus Crusade. This is set 12 years into the Indominus Crusade. That's what Guy Haley mentioned when he was being interviewed the other day, that he's set 12 years into it. So I personally think now it opens a lot of doors to introduce characters that we all know of, like, like what happened with all the Eldar once Guilliman was resurrected. We've never heard of them again. Are they going to be more involved into the storyline? We know, like, Gaz Skull is out there. He's like bigger and better than ever now after having his head reattached because, Ragnar took it off and stuff. These kind of characters can come back into the storyline. It opens up new war zones. Are we actually going to, see, like, the battle for Armageddon again? Is Gaz still going to go there? We know, nothing happened like that because it was set during the end of the Indominus Crusade. Again, this opens the path for that to happen, potentially. Fingers crossed. Anyway, Primarchs. More Primarchs returning. This was one of my main gripes. I knew a Primarch wasn't coming back for the simple fact that Guilliman never mentioned any more Primarchs in Dark Imperium and Plague Wars. He only mentioned Magnus or Mortarion. If someone like Fulgrim or Angron came back, even like some of his loyalist brothers like Jagatai, Vulcan, Dawn, just anyone, Lehman Russ, we know that it never happened because it was never mentioned. This now gives us the opportunity to potentially get these people back into the storyline and introduce more of these big characters, which for me absolutely excites me. You all know how bloody weird I am when it comes to Primarchs, and it was always in the back of my mind that they're not going to come back because we know the end of the era Indominus, and now we're at the start of the era Indominus, and 11 years in, and we've got like 100 plus other years now just to cover. I think they are going to be adding some of these big type of characters. I really, really do. And let me just say before we move on to like talk about Godblight and stuff, I understand why people are frustrated. Yes, I absolutely hate retcons. Retcons are one of the worst things because you can build up like an entire army based on some lore, and then GW come in and go, well, that makes no sense. We're going to redo that, and it can potentially destroy like armies, stuff that you've created for the IP. Yeah, I can completely understand that. So don't think I'm going away from this saying, yeah, this is amazing, this is the best thing to happen. I understand that there's certain downsides to this, and it probably, would have affected some people in the community. Now, on the subject of the third Dark Imperium book called Godblight, again, an era Indominus novel, you can see it in the background now, that's what they're calling these. It says, the paths of rebooted Guilliman, not Ghouliman. I know we were all laughing at that on the thing. Well, it's how you end up pronounce it, but I say Guilliman. A lot of people say Ghouliman like he's a ghoul. So the paths of rebooted Guilliman and his fallen brothers, brother Mortarion, bring them inexorably together on Ajax. Once the jewel of the Imperium, the Garden World, is dying, as the plans of Mortarion to use it as a fulcrum to drag all stellar realms of Ultramar into the warp come to deadly fruition. While Guilliman attempts to prevent the destruction of his kingdom, Mortarion schemes to bring his brother low with Godblight, a disease created by the cauldron of Nurgle itself, made with the power to destroy a son of the Emperor. Primarchs clash on the ravaged landscapes of Ajax. The gods to war. The wider galaxy balances on a knife at the edge of destruction as something powerful stirs in the sea of souls. Only one thing is certain. Whoever wins the last great clash of the Plague War, the repercussions of the victory will echo down the eternity. So that sounds pretty good. For those of you who don't know, and again, this is probably going to be spoiler talk from here on out, so if you haven't read Dark Imperium, if you haven't read Plague Wars, then just avoid this section of the video. Now, what happened during the end of Plague Wars is that Guilliman was given the Legio Divitatis. I don't know. I'm just going to call it the big book of Lorgar's bad words. And he started to read it. And the sense that I got, he's like going down that road so he can kind of understand the mindset of the foundations, let's say, of the imperial faith, maybe to understand how the Imperium is run and how they see his father, and overall how they see him, because to certain people he is the son of a god. Maybe he's learning it to try and understand the mind of his brother Lorgar. Maybe this is, going to be coming in going forward, where Lorgar could potentially be introduced into the story. Not in this story, of course, but in future stories. And so he's preparing to read all his enemies' notes. Let's say he just has the best understanding from it. Going into Godblight itself. As it's mentioned here, Nurgle is involved, of course. So Mortarion is trying to make something to kill Guilliman. When you read these stories, one thing for a fact is that even though Guilliman will come up against it, will be pressed up against the wall, he'll always come out swinging, because at the end of the day, he's a Primarch. Nothing can really kill a Primarch except another Primarch. Don't post Rogal Dawn jokes in the comment section. I've had enough of you guys. Even though Dawn lives. So when it comes to it now, there's a plague that could potentially bring him down. Do I think that it will bring him down? No, I do not. I think the woman in the previous story, Plague Wars, who, there's a lot of theories that the Emperor was working her in some type of way, because like when she appeared on the battlefield, a lot of the demons were saying like anima and stuff like that. Is that the word? I'm sure it's basically like the word they use for the Emperor, because he just burst them all into bloody flames as he looks at them, because he's that awesome. So I think that he's, or she, or whatever it is, the being, let's say, is got to get involved and potentially sacrifice their life to save Rabute, maybe put their power into him to heal him, and that flame will be extinguished as it goes into Rabute. Of course, Rabute's not going to die. I know some people saying, well, he may be, put him back into stasis or something. I can't see him coming out of stasis and just going back into it like 12 years later. That would be like the most anticlimactic thing ever to happen. It's like, I'm here. No, I'm not. See you in a bit, guys. See you in the next 10,000 years. Yeah, I don't see anything like that is going to happen. I think it's going to be, a nice little battle. It's going to be a little back and forth. I think some Ultramar is going to be ruined by Mortarion, but ultimately the Ultramarines and whoever's there, the other chapters, the Custodians, the Sisters of Battle, Silence, Guilliman himself are going to win, and Chaos, will retreat after, bringing as much devastation as they can. Now, with other releases, of course, another talking point was the Uriel Ventress model, which, by the way, was leaked by GW themselves this time. People had nothing to do with it. They actually put the video up in the morning. Funny story with me, I was actually in bed, and I got a notification, and it was like, Uriel Ventress. I'm like, am I still dreaming? Because I opened it, and nothing was there. But of course, they uploaded it by mistake, so as soon as they put it online, they took it offline. But we all know, once it's on the internet, it's on the internet. People managed to get screenshots of it, and we had the model that you see in the background now previewed all the way in the morning before anything else got announced. So we knew that there was potentially going to be a book linked with Uriel Ventress. I actually personally thought that he was going to be showing up in the Dawn of Fire series, which again we'll get onto in a second, but it's not. He's actually getting a brand new book of Graham McNeil himself, and of course it's called The Swords of Calth, a Uriel Ventress novel, and it's going to be detailing him. He's Costa Primaris Rubicon now. I know there's been a lot of talk about his model. The first thing I thought about when I saw his model is that his hairline looked like Simple Jack from Tropic Thunder, for those of you who know what that reference is I'm talking about. I've seen other references, like he's a cross between Thomas Shelby and Friar Tuck and stuff. The memes are out there, of course. The memes are brilliant. All in all, I like the model. Well, I like certain aspects of the model. I love the power sword. His arm piece looks a bit weird at the elbow joint. I don't know why. Something's throwing me off there. I like the chest. I like the little Terminator on it he's got dangling from it, his little chain. I love his little rose that's on his pauldron, even though it's a white rose. I am definitely red rose, Lancaster won the War of the Roses. How dare you, whoever did the white rose. His greaves look a bit chunky at the bottom. Am I going to get it? I'm not too sure. One thing I actually love about this model and other types of models like this is that I love shoulder capes. I love a good cape that goes around a pauldron, and this has it, and that's what really is like, that really brings the model together for me. Am I going to get it? Probably yes. When I'm looking at it now, I'm not going to paint it as an Ultramarine. I'm going to paint it probably as a Reclaimer of Dawn, but there's too many toilet seats on there for me. Probably I can keep the sword like we reclaimed the sword from an Ultramarine because he lost it in an honor duel. I'm looking at like his chest piece and his, his Ultra belt. I can just yeet the bloody shoulder pads, and no interest in that in the backpack. I can just cut that off. I'll have to probably think about it, maybe see it in person. Hopefully I can, get someone who's an Ultramarine friend in my inner circle and get them to buy it, and, they can show me off and stuff and show me all the details. So yeah, I need to see it in person before I'm actually going to buy that. Now back onto the subject of Dawn of Fire, we have another Dawn of Fire novel released. I loved the first Dawn of Fire novel. It was very, very good. The information in there, again, added a lot of backbone to the Primaris, because we all know one of the main things about the Primaris Marines is that they just sprang out the ground. They're like bloody dwarves at this point. It's like they were there 1 second and that is it. And I can understand why a lot of people didn't take to the lore, because it made no sense. It was shit at the end of the day. It was shit, the way they happened. But what the authors have been doing since then, through novels, through bits of lore pieces and codexes and stuff like that, they have actually been trying to build up this backstory to them. And the first Dawn of the Dawn of Fire novel was great. The only one thing I hate about it is that I got it on audiobook, because I get all my books on audiobook, and the voice actor, like his narration of it was okay. I enjoyed it. But when he come to do the voices, it completely put me off. Like Prince Charles sounded... Prince Charles. Rebooty Gilliman sounded like Prince Charles having a stroke. And if you listen to the Dark Imperium Rebooty and the Plague World Rebooty, and then you listen to this one, for me, it completely killed my immersion. But that's just me. If you guys enjoyed it, then you enjoyed it. Now, the next one is called The Gates of Bones, a Dawn of Fire novel. The cover straight away jumps out at me because it has probably 3 of my favourite factions on there. Well, I do like Sisters, but like my all-time favourite factions, of course, Imperial Fist, Custodes, I've got 2 of those armies, and Mordian Iron Guard. Mordian Iron Guard are probably my top 3 when it comes to the Imperial Guard regiments. It's like Praetorians, Valhallans, Mordians, maybe Mordians and something else, but Mordians are definitely up there. So it's nice to see that they're actually getting some love in this new novel. And the information we have about this, it says, as the Indominus Crusade begins, fleets of mighty warships leave Terra on a vital quest to stabilize the Imperium Sanctus. In the wake of the Great Rift, the returned Primarch Rebooty Guliman leads a huge force towards the Shrine World of Galvamore. Is that thing out of bloody Doctor Who? Please correct me if I'm wrong. Where the stable warp routes will allow the flotilla to spread across the belguarded southern half of the Imperium. But grave tidings reach Imperial's ears, warnings from an ancient race. But there we go. Ancient race is probably going to be like Eldar or something like that. Maybe it could even be Necrons, maybe. Don't go here because everyone is bloody got to die. Anyway, it's going to be another book that adds more to lore, that adds more to the Primaris Marines. Of hopefully, for you sister players, I'll add more sister lore, Custodes, more custodial lore, and of course the glorious Mordian Iron Guard. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting my hands on this. And just a quick fire now, going through all the rest, because this video is probably nearing around 20 minutes at this time. That's if I don't, edit anything out. Long one today. There's a new series announced, like a new character series, starting with Gazskul Fracker, Prophets of the War. The cover, well, I think that's the cover, that like metal thing, looks absolutely badass. I'm sure my friend Gung is losing himself with that. Interested to see what other characters they do. Hopefully it's not the generic Ultramarine. I know there's Ultramarine fans. I get it. There's some badass Ultramarine captains and sergeants and whatever. But I really like some love to other chapters. If it's Space Marines, if it's not Space Marines, then guard generals, guard sergeants, just individual guardsmen, maybe certain sisters, just anything out there. Let's try and go down like the most bizarre roles possible and introduce like new badasses to the actual setting. I think that could be absolutely fantastic. One of the big announcements was, of course, Dan Abnett's new book, which sent me into a absolute madness because I've been waiting for this now for so bloody long. Now, when it comes to like Eisenhorn and Ravenor, Beckwin is a massive part of that. I've always said Eisenhorn is the greatest love story ever told. People laugh at me all the time. But for her to get the announcement now of the new book, and I actually think that they're going to be redoing these via audio books as well. I know like the first one, Pariah, is going to be getting a new fantasy cover, so it only makes sense now for Pennant to get that same treatment. And again, like I said, I think they'll get like a nice audio books to go with him, because I actually do prefer the audio books. It immerses me more into it. So yeah, it was really, really nice to see that from from Dan. Dan Abner is not Gaz Skull. I'm so sorry, Dan. And lastly, the thing that hit my radar, of course, was the brand new Siege of Terror book, Mortis. I was 99.9% convinced that this was going to be announced. It had to be. There's been so much talk about where the bloody hell's the next Siege of Terror book, and it's John French. I love John French, as I mentioned in my previous like little hype video. John French is probably one of the best people, best person, should I say, that has ever wrote Imperial Fists. He's ever wrote Rogue Dawn and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm hugely excited to see where it goes with this. This is called Mortis, this one, and he says it's about, the Titan Legions being unleashed. So expect a lot of Daka, a lot of death, a lot of explosions, a lot of god machines. Yeah, absolutely pumped for it. Alright, Chaperunios, that is me done for another video. Thank you for coming, thank you for watching. Sorry for the long video. I just want to talk mostly about, of course, the retcon and stuff like that, but I just want to talk about everything that was previewed the other day. I was going to do this video after I did the event, but I just wanted a little bit of a rest. It's my birthday tomorrow, the 7th, so I've been kind of having like a little mini birthday weekend with my family, just in the house, because of course we're still on tier 3 lockdown. So yeah, I just really want to chill this bloody weekend. Anyway, enough about me. Thank you for coming, thank you for watching. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback on everything I've discussed here today. What was one of the main things that stood out for you? What the things did you love? I would love to get your comments on the retcons of course, Plague Wars and all those books that's happened, the Dark Imperium books. Please, I would really like to see what people think about that. Is it just me that thinks this is a good idea, or are you in the camp that you don't like it and GW shouldn't have done it? Please post it below and we'll have a nice little chat down there, as we always do. See you now, have a great day, and bye bye.